That's marvelous.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our first ever Board of Supervisors of Elections virtual meeting. It's 7:00 p.m. on May 21st, 2020. And calling this meeting to order. This is Cliff Myers, chair. The others could introduce themselves quickly.
Brianna Cuffey, member.
Eileen Leahy, member.
Regina Watkins Eldridge, city clerk.
Thank you all. The first item on the agenda is the review of our, it's been a while with COVID, of course, since the last meeting. So it's the minutes of the meeting from February. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at those?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we
And
have
well, I looked just quick. I had looked at them to see if we had put in specific language concerning whatchamacallit, was concerning the absentee ballots, and we did not. So I just want to make sure that the minutes were fine.
Yes. All right. Do we have a motion on the minutes then?
I motion we accept the minutes as written.
All in favor? Sorry about that. Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand. The minutes are approved. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, excuse me, campaign report filing. Thank you for Regina for the recap on where we are with that. So in case folks missed it, we had 7 outstanding issues previously with the campaign reports. 3 were resolved. Alderman Savage resolved, Alderman Arnott resolved, and candidate Gallagher had been resolved, which left us with, there were some miscellaneous items for AADC. We had candidate Moyer on his statement of loan. We have Alderman Gay, and we had candidate Yanis, were the 4 that had not responded to our last plea, which was back in January, for amended reports or payment of fees, as the case may be. So when last we met, we did ask for thoughts about being able to proceed with the next step on this, and I don't know if we saw the actual drafted comment, but I think we said yes, we're ready to proceed. So I think our next step is to we get the paperwork together and get this off to the district court, right?
So, but to clarify, have they received their letters? Were those letters sent out that we approved?
Regina?
What letters?
We said that we were going to send out letters in regards to misdemeanor status and just clarify that. And
I have not been provided with any letter.
There was an email from Ashley saying that she had checked with the city attorney and he gave us go ahead, and we needed, I guess, the board needed to get back to him in regards to names and addresses.
All right, so let's, that was thank you, Eileen. So if we could next week take that, and that'll just be a letter saying, here's what we're doing, here's our next step, which I think was the intent of that. And then at this point, it would go to the AADC, Mr. Moyer, Alderman Gay, and Mr. I'm going to mispronounce his last name because it's been a while, Mr. with Yanis.
Mm-hmm.
So Regina, I know you've got a lot of work coming your way next week with the meeting. Is that
my understanding was that Ashley was going to talk with
Yes.
Carrie Berger, because Carrie had drafted one of these letters once before. And I think there had been an email saying that Ashley had done that, but was waiting for us. So when she gets on, maybe we can check.
I'm here.
Yep.
Okay.
Ashley?
So yeah, my recollection is that, I just needed a final list of names, and then we would put those letters together, and the city attorney was open to sending them out.
All right, so Regina, are you able to do that tomorrow? Or would you like us to send that off to Ashley?
Well, actually, I'm not working tomorrow. I am off tomorrow.
Got it. Okay. All right.
But it's only an email, and I could probably send her the names after we get off of this call.
Okay. Yep. And we know the 4 involved.
Okay. So
Great.
let me just go through that again. So we're sending
Yes.
a letter to the Annapolis Democratic Central Committee, John Moyer, Alderman Gay, and Giannis.
Correct.
Okay.
Those are the 4. Thank
And
you.
do we have addresses, email addresses, mailing addresses for all of them?
They're on the website, so I'm pretty sure. I
Oh,
can get-
Right. But again, if I recall, I think that the city attorney had recommended they go by mail. Or can we
Yes.
do email?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. These would go by mail.
So they'll go by mail. Do we need to do certified or?
Yes,
Regular.
I would recommend certified, just so you can have evidence you sent them.
Okay. Ashley, I'll send you the names and addresses, and if you just send me the letters, I'll make sure they go out certified mail.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Is there any other questions on that point? The next item on the agenda
Oh,
is the, yes, ma'am.
campaign fund reports. You know, there's one due
July
on
1.
July 1. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Got one coming up. And so on that point, I think, your office typically sends out a note reminding them in advance
A
that there's
memo.
one coming due. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to have the memo ready to send to you guys, not Tuesday, but maybe Wednesday. And I'll send it to you guys to proof it, and then you can send it back to me or with
Great.
your comment.
So,
Thank you.
Cliff, do you think we're gonna have the new report up and
All right,
running
so
by then?
So we'll segue into the next item. It's quite possible. I've had a couple conversations with Stephanie Connor, and I'm trying to keep the scope as simple as possible in the design of the form. And so here are a couple of things that help to keep it simpler. I don't know if you've all had a chance to play with the PDF sample I had sent out or not, but I designed that with a lot of things we had talked about. So if you, I could try to share the screen, but I'll talk through it real quick. On each page of the report, you have the name of the campaign. So I set that up where we would have a drop down that would have all the names of the campaigns as we know them, so that the candidate filling out the report would simply select who they are. And of course, then that name would pre-fill on all the subsequent pages of the form without them having to do that on all 6 pages. That actually works pretty good. The complication with that particular element is, as you are getting new candidates, Stephanie said it takes 2 to 4 weeks to make a change to a dropdown, which I think is permissible. It's an open field. You can type in a new name if you're not in a dropdown. So I think that's workable. The word, that's a fixed thing. It's an easy dropdown. So for the most part, most of these things are fairly basic and achievable. What Stephanie did ask me, however, to do after we talked and she was going through it, just asked me, and I think I sent this out to everybody as well, was to go ahead and make the changes on the actual original Word source document. And she said it would be much simpler for her to take that rather than what I was doing through the PDF, which I was working on that and then sending it to her. It'd be easier for her to go with the source document and import that then into PDF. And from there, she would make all the adjustments. So I am just about done with that then. But I mean, she's done this professionally. I was playing with it for about 6 hours and I had the whole form just about done. So yeah, I think we have a pretty good chance that this could be in place, but city has a lot of other priorities and just, trying to get ourselves to fit in.
Cliff, I have just 2 questions. One
Yes,
is it possible rather with a drop down, rather than having a person drop down and fill in, can they just fill in their name and then they become their own drop down? I mean, you see that frequently in
I'll have to talk to her about that. That's getting a little bit more dynamic in the use of the PDF. To have that, if you do that now, it becomes a field that's always there. I mean, if they do fill in a name, that field will replicate on all the other pages, so you won't have to do
Right.
it in the other pages.
So do we want to do a drop down? Just have people put in their own name? I
You
mean,
know,
you
that
don't-
it means you don't have to come back, you know, particularly when you get into the heart of the season and you have people filing. I mean, once you pass the filing deadlines, it's not going to change. So that's why I didn't think it was particularly a significant issue, but we could leave that blank if we wanted to, and the core
Well, it
functionality
just
would
seems
still work.
if you can't include everybody and you've got a time lag for new candidates, it seems to try to keep it so everybody does the same thing. Let's have them just type their name in, and if it fills all of their name forms, all of their
It
name,
will. It'll fill them out all
spaces,
the way across the
then
rest of the pages.
it accomplishes it for them. And also then you're not going to fall into somebody hitting wrong name.
Yeah. Yeah. So-and-so filing for a different person. Yes.
Right. But I mean, you know, again, going back to keeping it simple.
Yep. Yep. No, that's not a
then-
problem.
then
The other
time.
category that was perplexing on this structure, again, and I made this comment on one of the emails, is that, you know, these are PDFs. You know, we're taking the, you know, a fairly inexpensive way to try to get some improvements in how these are completed. You know, Adobe and PDFs, it's not Excel. It's not perfect. And when I was talking to Stephanie, she said, you know, sometimes it doesn't calc. And I said, yeah, I was coming across a few times where it did not seem like it was providing the calculation correctly. So, you know, so where I'm going at with this is, you know, it seems to work pretty good by page. So when we were setting it up to say on the contributions page, on that particular page, there were only 7 rows that put in contributions. It's pretty limited, but it adds for pretty nicely on that page. If you put each in for $100, it totals to 700. It pre-fills. Very nice. You can set your fields equals. That 700 shows up on your summary page in the front. That works pretty nice. So that would be another feature of this to help with all the miscellaneous, you know, either math errors or not being able to read the dollars that were put on the form. The complexity gets into when somebody has, you know, you're in the thick of the season and they don't have 7 contributors during the last reporting cycle. They have 120. You know, so I was recommending to Stephanie that field as well. You can pre-fill, but it's a writable field. So if you have a lot of Schedule 1 pages, you would still take the total of those. I had suggested to her, you know, we could have a standalone Schedule 1 on the website. Today, you just have the standalone, it's the entire package. You could have a standalone Schedule 1. It's the exact same Schedule 1 that's in the package, and it would work exactly the same way. It would add up your 7 rows and have a total. So somebody could grab, you know, I need 3 pages of Schedule 1, go grab a standalone, fill it up, print it, send it in along with the rest of your package, and would create a Schedule 1A that would be in every package. So Schedule 1A, it's kind of like getting with the IRS. Schedule 1A would simply take your total. You'd have a bunch of rows on that Schedule 1A, and you'd put in, I have Schedule 1 had $700. Put that in the first field on Schedule 1A, and that's all you got. It's 700, and you're done. If you had 4 pages for Schedule 1, because you had a lot of contributors, you'd put 700, 500, 700, 500. What did I get to? 2,400. You would then, it would add up to 2,400, and that's the number that would show up on your summary page. And I think that's actually fairly simple to do as well, to allow for multiple pages, particularly if you get into the thick of the season. I did get rid of a bunch of extra lines. I don't think we've ever seen, we'll ever see anybody using, you know, 10 rows for the loans and transfers. So I removed a bunch of those lines and added a couple explanations about what we want with loans.
So just to clarify, so you put in some of what were from the code of what exactly is expected, because we had also talked about when we were doing this in certain areas like loans and all, that we would actually cite the
You see,
cite the city code section. so that people could click on it and see exactly what was needed.
So yeah, I'll have to see whether or not if they're pulling up the form off the website, if clicking a URL from there would nonetheless still, if that's easy enough in a PDF to get that to connect to the site to pull up the code, that would be sweet.
I
That
thought we
gets
were
a
gonna
little
do like
messy,
Yeah, I thought we were gonna do like a drop down. No? Okay.
a drop down for,
For, it could just tell you right on the form, if you weren't sure, what do I need to do for a loan? There would be a drop down to explain it. But are you putting it right on the form?
yeah, what I did, and if you all had a chance to look at, or we can circle back to that after we get through the other points in the meeting, and I can share the screen and we can look at what I did. And then if you all have comments, I can take those comments and work with Stephanie next week on getting those implemented. Does
Just
that make
one other
sense?
question.
Yes.
Hate to ask. Did you or Stephanie get a chance to look at any other municipalities that are using this already?
I did not. No. And Stephanie didn't, I'm sure of that. Did I lose you? I think I lost Eileen.
And did you lose me?
There you go, you're back.
Must have hit something.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Eileen, can you hear us?
She muted herself
But her video's gone too.
Or yes.
and her
or
video's gone too.
She might need to restart. So the core question is, will we have this in place by July 1? I think there's a decent chance. I don't think there's any doubt it'll be in place for the next required report. July 1 might not hit. Again, I'm very understanding that Stephanie has a lot of other priorities, and if she can get this in, it'll be wonderful. If she's not able to get in by July 1, there's no question it'll be in for the next reporting cycle.
Okay.
So unless there are any other comments on that, I did send the forms out. I can resend if anyone wants to take a look at those. Trying to minimize as much of the going back and forth with Stephanie as I can. Hi, Eileen. Regina.
Question, what about the e-signature? Where are they going to have the ability to sign it?
That is the next comment on the schedule. That was a nice lead in. So campaign reports and e-signatures. So I was going back through our prior conversations. I know we don't have anything right now in proposed legislation. So I'm going to go back to Ashley with that question, because I know we would like to have a way for them to be able to do this. If they can simply complete that form online and typing in their name in some form of e-signature approach, that would really be ideal. We already have their initial agreement as campaign report responsible entities. Ashley?
I'll have to double check. I think there might be something specifically in your code section that deals with signatures, but it's a little fuzzy at this point. So
Okay.
I'll look in the next couple minutes if I get back to you. The other concern is, and this might be something we have to talk with MIT about, is I don't think we do this for any other city forms. I can't think of any. So this would be a new process.
For the e-signature or the fillable?
The e-signature. We
Yeah.
have lots of fillables.
Fillables, yeah.
Mhm.
The fillables is not the problem, but I'm not aware of any where we allow them to like print them out and sign them and scan them back to us, but like a
Right.
pure e-signature. I don't think we, and the scanning and signing back is only some of them, not the ones, but so I'd have to look.
Brianna?
You can do like an e-signature on the fillable though as well, even with like the most basic version of Adobe PDF. They
Correct.
can either like write out their signature and uploaded it, because that's the one that I have, so that it actually is my written signature, and then place it on the document, or they can type it out and pick a font or what have you. But even in the fillable PDF, they should be able to do that without doing like using like a
An
third
outside
party,
service,
what have
right.
you, to do an e-signature.
Right. Regina?
I think what she's saying is we don't know if we're allowed to use it by code. I don't think she's saying we can't get it done. I think she's saying that we need to see if our code allows us to accept
Got
it.
it. Got it. Understood.
Yeah, and also just if we want to start that practice, because if we do it for this
Yes,
form,
it's opening the door.
there's other forms that people might want to use it for.
So we're kind of opening a box of worms if we allow it.
Mhm.
Got it.
Which might
pardon-
be fine. I just need to check.
Pardon my the view here. My power pack just came out and had to put it back in. It's not wanting to adjust. I was about to lose my battery. Come on. Okay. Come on. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yes. All right, sorry, I was out.
All right. So this is still not playing nice. My apologies. It keeps popping out and my battery went out. I didn't realize that it popped out. Okay. I had one other comment or thought about that stream of thought, and I've forgotten what that was. So we may come back to it if need be.
I'm sorry, Cliff, I went blank when I was asking
Okay.
you about if there had been a chance to look at Rockville or Frederick's campaign reports, because they have drop downs and theirs is on computer.
I had not looked at the Rockville drop downs.
Okay. I just thought it might be helpful to, just because theirs is pretty, their code is pretty close to what ours is. So if you need some ideas or want to just kind of do a
Okay.
check that.
And again, I will invite, I'll send out again if you haven't had a chance to look at it, or if you don't have it available, just to take a look at some of the drafting, so I don't have to go back and forth with Stephanie, or at least limit that. The next item on the agenda, legislation, absentee ballot, mail-in timelines, city code. All right, so we had a little bit of exchange today in regard to that particular draft from Ashley. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a quick peek at that at all today.
I did check my notes, and we had said mail or postmark on or before election day and received by the board. And we didn't put a number of days because we weren't sure how many. And I subsequently did talk to Joe Torrey, who suggested that we make it 10 a.m. on the day of the canvass.
Right, and I think that is the verbiage then in the proposed change.
And I can't,
Which had
say that 10
not-
days, because it had been 7 days for a canvass.
well, we didn't have anything in terms of changing the canvas date.
Okay.
But the way this was reading was not later than the board prescribed start time on the date of the canvas. Now the date of the canvas is in another section of the election code. So unless we were to propose another change, which would be the change to date of the canvas, I think this reads appropriately in terms of giving us the flexibility. It'll be whatever day that canvas date is, as noted in the other part of the code.
I'll have to look at it again, but when I first looked at it, they seem to be in conflict. I'll see if I can pull up. I had all my documents pulled up.
It may have been the first round of the one that was sent
Yes.
the 17th, but then Ashley had sent one out a couple hours ago. Because
Okay,
that's what I'm seeing. The same thing that Cliff was saying with the strike throughs and the data.
okay, I didn't see that one. I'll have to check that.
Yeah, I took Cliff's comments and there definitely was a conflict with the paragraph 2. I didn't want to get rid of the paragraph 2 completely because It does contain important information that if it's not received timely, it's not counted. But I did take out, I think, the conflict. I'm not
Okay.
exactly positive that the wording should be subparagraph 1 above. I need to check with our legislative analyst to see what the correct drafting is, but that's sort of the idea I was going with.
Okay, so
Okay.
she'll get back to us with a drafting before we have to vote on it then?
Yeah, I'll check with her tomorrow.
All right, so for us to be able to get this moving along then, so it looks like we may not be able to vote on this until our next meeting.
Okay,
Which leads me to a follow-up question on this particular point. So one of the items on the agenda is the election calendar. And the election calendar makes reference to a lot of the timelines. By city code currently, the absentee ballot timeline, of course, is the day after the election. So I just want to be sure that in this particular type of item for the calendar that we are okay and not in a legal conflict to issue the calendar, but yet have a change to the absentee ballot timelines come about at some point after assuming that this gets approved and it gets approved after the calendar is published, that I'm okay to adjust the calendar to a new absentee ballot date. Regina?
You have 10 weeks until your election office opens. On the
Understood.
date that your election office opens, the calendar and any document that you need to run for office has to be in its final format.
Is that code?
Gary, the email Gary sent at the last election stated that. Remember, he said that you have to have the items to run available on that date.
All right. So I guess what I'm questioning is, I think the issue of the timeline for the absentee ballot receipt is not, I would not define that as an item to run. So
Right.
I don't, whether we can make that adjustment subsequent.
we've made adjustments before.
Yeah, absolutely, to the
Okay.
calendar.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll publish the calendar as the current code stipulates.
But it does impact the campaign reports that we just talked about. That
Absolutely.
needs to be done.
Yes.
That needs
But
to
you
be
still have several city council meetings to get this ordinance in front of them to get it passed.
right.
I mean,
Yes.
we need to get it on at least by the second meeting in June, because it needs a first reader, a public hearing, a second reader, and it needs to go to rules committee
Right.
at
Right.
least.
So let's do this on this particular point then. Once we have the final version, we may need to call a special meeting just so we can get the vote in on it. So it can be presented. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
I mean,
seems
I'm
fine.
pretty sure if Jacqueline answers Ashley's question, we could probably get it on the city council agenda maybe for June 8th.
But does it have to go to rules committee first?
No, it has to be adopted on first reader first.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's where the referral is
Okay.
made. But since it is an ordinance, it wouldn't go to committee until after it has a public hearing. And if it went on first reader on June the 8th, then it would go probably on the city council agenda for public hearing on the 22nd of June. So that will be a good timeline. You could get it done by the end of July.
Good. So that may mean a very brief special meeting toward the end of next week in order to get that moving, so it could be on the June 8th calendar. Okay. Good. The next item on the agenda, Rockville. You're on,
Okay.
Eileen.
Well, I'll keep it short. I did get a chance to look at the two different election calendars, and I don't think we have to really make any changes to ours right now. A lot of what they have on their calendar is either outreach or, yes?
Okay, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but what type of calendar are you talking about? Are you talking about the calendar the county is using for the presidential, doing a mailing, all mail election, or are we just talking about our regular calendar?
I was looking at our calendar and
Okay.
then trying to see what the difference would be if we did go to vote by mail.
Okay.
In terms of Rockville. And it doesn't look like there's anything in there they have more than what we have. So a lot of the types of things they have in their election calendar have to do, number one, with outreach, or has to do with candidate packets and things like that, that by code, we don't have to put in our election calendar. Now, what they have in there, which we would have to put in afterwards, is if we do go to vote by mail, they have in there things like when mailers go out, when information goes out, things like that. Those, again, would need to be things that get added later. You know, and again, I think the big question with the Rockville is, or with vote by mail, is do we want to proceed? You know, I haven't gone any further because I wanted to meet with you all, but do we want to pursue it? I mean, Joe Torre seems to feel that the state is going to it. It's not particularly less expensive, but it does have a higher return rate. And, you know, we'll have 2 of them under our belt. So we're actually in a good place that people in the city of Annapolis will have already done it a couple of times. And it would be good to get that feedback to find out if we want to go in that. When I talked to Rockville, they felt that we had enough time to get it implemented, particularly because the state has already done it. But what I'd like to hear from you all is, do we want to pursue it? Do we want to talk to the mayor about it and find out where the mayor and the city council are on it? Or what are the next steps?
Regina?
Okay, question. If you want to talk to the city council about what type of election you want to have, I would suggest that you guys be added to their work session agenda.
Okay.
But you have to be prepared because we don't want, you know, to not have enough information for them. And if you could have the information ready prior to, I'd be happy to send it out to them so they can have some questions ready by the time we get to the
I mean,
work
I
session.
can do that. The Rockville people have done a lot of work and have already said, we can use whatever they have. You know, they have, which I've sent out to everybody before, you know, the frequently asked questions, their time schedule, a number of those sorts of things can, you know, they already exist. They also have a very comprehensive candidate packet, which jives with what we've talked about doing, also of creating a packet for candidates. And so that's kind of a separate piece. But I think I think because the primary and possibly the general election in the fall are going to be are going to be vote by mail. Apparently that's the correct term to use. I think the discussion's needed in terms of what we want to do, because that's really where the State Board of Elections is moving towards, even after this year. So, so putting on a work session, do we need to talk to anybody beforehand? Do we need to talk to Dave Jarrell?
What is the date of the next work session?
It's the 3rd Thursday of June, and that would be, hold on a second.
Day of our meeting.
Yep. That's
Oh,
the
yes,
18th.
it is. It is the same day.
And what time is that scheduled? Is it like 3 or something?
The work sessions are at 3.
3 o'clock.
And I can look at the works draft list for work session to see if they have what's on for June, because they only allow 2 items on the agenda for work sessions, and they give them an hour peak.
Okay, I just lost. If you and Brianna want to, move forward with it, I'm happy to put together the materials for that work session if we can get on it.
Eileen, I'll check the draft to see if they have an item on for June, and if they don't have 2, you could be added to June.
Okay.
Are we agreed, Brianna? Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. Sorry, I'm typing notes, so I didn't want y'all to
Sorry.
hear my typing.
I understood.
And
I'm a
how do
loud
you feel
typer.
about it? How do you feel about it, Cliff?
No, I think this question can't be, it could be asked in the fall, but you're getting really, really tight on a lot of other planning and procedures. It really should be asked as soon as possible.
Right, I agree. Okay.
And you did make one comment. Cost, and it didn't really cost that much less than the payment to staffing the polls. 2 separate times. Rough math gives me $25,000 to mail out 2 sets of ballots. And that doesn't include the printing cost of those that are getting mailed, but you had to print ballots already. So that's,
Right.
it's not, yeah.
It's a bit of a shift. It's the postage,
Mhm.
but what I'm hearing from not just Rockville, but from talking with Joe Torre is that one of the biggest challenges is getting election judges, not paying them, getting them.
For normal elections.
Well, even for our elections, I mean,
Correct.
it's becoming very difficult. So I think the driving force that I'm feeling is that this has been shown to increase voter participation. And, you know, Annapolis is of a size where it could work well. There are some upfront costs, things like the boxes, but now that the state board has done them, maybe we can rent their boxes as opposed to having to have our own.
Mhm.
I mean, these are all kinds of questions that would then go
Right.
into an MOU.
Right.
And those would all be, you know, there'd be a number of decisions in terms of some of the logistics. But before even getting into those, it's just finding out how the council and the mayor feel about it and how we think the public. I think we need to have a public meeting about it and hear from them, especially if people have done it in June, get their feedback. A lot of it has to do with working with the post office ahead of time to make sure the addresses are accurate and correct. I mean, that's a big part of it. And then there's some outreach in terms of getting out there and explaining it to people.
And of course, all the addresses that we'd be using are already vetted because it's the database that the county is
Exactly.
already using.
Exactly.
Regina, did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to say, if you guys wanted to see what the box looks like where you could drop your vote by mail ballot in, there is one at the rec center on Hilltop.
That's right. That's where it's placed.
Right.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And certainly we've
And
already.
for the work session, I'm sorry, for the work session, I'll go ahead and have the numbers in terms of increase in terms of voter participation and some other things.
Good.
Okay.
One last comment on this is that we just talked about absentee ballots. To some extent, those conversations become somewhat moot if it's a complete mail-in ballot.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other comment or conversation in regard to mail-in balloting? Next item on the agenda ties into that city election year expenses and the county MOU. So, Ashley, thank you. Had put together a draft and amended a variety of the elements in that from the special election as regards the MOU for the county. This is a pretty significant question from a timing perspective. Obviously, the city needs to be aware of some costs that may be coming their way in that next fiscal year. And, I'm thinking that we probably need to present at least one of the items that Ashley drafted to the city council. I don't know if we need both of them initially, but at some point, I don't know if we can afford to wait until September or October if mail-in balloting proceeds, because if we're still going to use the county, we're going to get billed from them for some of these expenses. So the process by which the city knows that I have some expenses that we're going to bear, whether it's borne by us or in payment to the county. Yes, ma'am.
Do we still need the resolution to go to the city council regarding,
Yes.
Requesting assistance to help us with the election?
Right. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. That was the 1-page resolution, right? That would say, hey, we, give us the authority.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So when is that supposed to go to the council?
Let's see. I thought I had that one printed off as well. But I don't see it here. I think that one as well should hit the council. Maybe we have to hit both of them on that June 8th timeframe. Does that make sense? Ashley, does that make sense to you?
Yes, and frankly, I would do it sooner than later, because the sooner we do it, the more we can start moving on all the stuff that we need to do.
Right. So, so what we need first to get in front of City Council is simply that one-page resolution. The MOU does not necessarily need to hit them at the same time. That was the question.
I'd have to check. I don't believe so. I think the city code just requires them to authorize the delegation.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So since it sounds like we'll likely have a fairly brief special meeting late next week, that meeting can be targeting issues of legislation. So the absentee ballot legislation, the resolution as a specific item. And then the third question just comes back to the expenses. Is the city already, from a budget perspective, knowing it's got a certain amount that it needs to allocate, or do we need to do anything on our end to be sure that there are funds allocated for the election? Regina.
How we wouldn't know what those funds were until we actually had a discussion with the county regarding the MOU, because that state who pays what.
Although we could use, from a budget perspective, the 2017 cycle as a benchmark, so that the city at least has something in its back pocket, knowing that we'll have some expenses. Maybe it'll come in a little less depending upon what happens with mail-in balloting. Sounds like maybe not significantly though, but that would be, I would think, would be an appropriate benchmark to use.
Would we want to consider maybe just putting up a template MOU with the resolution, just so that we could say, we do this with leases all the time, is we get the resolution with the authority and say, here's sort of the outline of what the MOU is going to look like when we pass it. But I could include language in there that says, without further city council, authority or approval being needed, this MOU can be amended to address, mail-in elections.
Okay.
So that way, we can get like the normal MOU sort of passed before them, but we include like a carve out so that we don't have to go back to them if we need to change it.
That sounds a good idea. Brianna, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just FYI, Eileen lost her connection, so she's trying to get back in.
Oh, okay, thank you. And the MOU itself, I did have that printed off. I can't recall, did the MOU indicate dollars or just functions?
It's never included dollars,
Right.
specific dollars in the past, because the county is unwilling to do so.
Right. So I think we'd still need to use.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I always try to throw it out there to see if they're willing to give us some estimates, but they have not been willing to do so.
So for budget purposes for the 2021 election cycle, then I think we still would need to use, if it hasn't already been contemplated, the 2017 costs as at least a foothold for the budget process. But I think that's a good idea, Ashley. Thank you. Any other comments or questions in regard to that particular item on the agenda?
I'll work on that. That won't take me that long.
Thank you. Election year calendar, the next item. Thank you, Regina, and thank you for your patience in waiting for us to get back. I know I took a look through it this afternoon. It's a pleasant way to take a day off work, and so went through everything you had there between and compared to 2017 and 2021, and did note a few things. And I think the most significant one was the question about the general election date. And I'll forward that off to everybody by Tuesday when I clean up my notes.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any comments, or Regina, any other comments on the election calendar?
So you're going to forward it to us?
Yes. By Tuesday. Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
I put on here Alderman Rodriguez only because there's no issue. I was just thought just to cross our T's and dot our I's at this point, based on the timing of his postponed resignation that the board itself does not have a direct role in this because this will go to the central committee. So to my understanding at this juncture, it is out of the board's direct hands. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
All right. And the last item on the agenda was just I wanted to address, we did receive back in January, February, a comment from a citizen in regard to the mayor's campaign, and wished to have a response from us about an ability to make comments on that particular website. We do have an opinion from the Office of Law, and I will send that out under my signature within the next couple of days.
So who are you sending it to?
The citizen was Mr. Jim Conley.
Eileen would like to request that we pause while she's trying to get back in.
Oh, thank you. So I saw your hand. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you.
Okay, so you're gonna send a letter to Mr. Conley regarding not being able to publish information on a candidate's page?
Mr. Conley was unable apparently to make comments on a website for the mayor, and thought that may have constituted a breach of election law. So we, in an opinion from Office of Law, it's a private website and there is not a breach in our view in terms of a citizen's ability to post a comment on that website. So the whole draft is out there. You've got it in your inbox. All I need is to have it placed onto letterhead so that I can sign it.
Okay. Place on letterhead.
Is Eileen back yet? Or are we still missing Eileen?
She's not back yet.
Not back yet. It looks like she's partially got something going on because at least the little body thing popped back up, whereas before it was just black.
Right.
But while
He's
you
having difficulty.
you do have one more item on your agenda. You guys have
We do. Yes,
elected
thank you.
chair.
Yep. Hopefully Eileen will be able to get back on. There she is. Hello, Eileen.
Just in time.
Are you on mute?
Can't hear. Yep.
Eileen, are you still able to talk?
I just went out again.
There you go. We can hear you.
I'm back
We
again.
can hear you.
I don't know why
Okay.
I keep getting frozen.
Okay.
Oh,
We were-
so Brianna just gave me a little recap. on-
Okay. Thank you, Brianna.
I've got all my electronic devices set up.
Right, okay. All right, so
Me too, Brianna.
you were talking about Mr. Conley, and so I'm sure
Yes.
whatever you decided was
Yes.
fine.
Yep. And then if I have the permission of the members of the board, there is an item to be discussed which was not on the agenda. So if I could have a motion to discuss one other item in regard to the chair of the board.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you all see me? Because I'm not
Yes.
seeing me.
Yes,
Okay, all right. And you can hear me.
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
If I could have a motion to consider an item that wasn't on the agenda.
Go ahead.
Do you need just
Brianna,
a
you're
motion?
making a motion?
I motion that we add the agenda concerning the election of the chair to the agenda, because I think this is the month that we need to do it.
Yes.
It is.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. All right, see everybody, thank you. All right, so this is an agenda item in regard to the chair of the board. Indeed, it is May. It did run up from last May. So is there any discussion in regard to who would like to assume the mantle for the next 12 months?
Well, I think as I put forth to both of you all now that I would be interested in becoming the chair. I think primarily because looking at the vote by mail, and being able to possibly see that through. And also in terms of my time schedule right now is pretty open in terms of being able to be available
All right.
to do so. I think all of us have a number of things on the agenda. Certainly the campaign finance report has been a big part of it and still needs completion and all. But, I want to hear from you all what your thoughts are as far as yourselves.
I think obviously you've done this a lot. I don't know, Brianna, if you had any desires to take a handle for a year. It looks like your time is tight with because you just started. Yep. Yeah, you're still in the throes of a new job, I believe. Regina?
I just want to say that whoever takes this position as of right now, you're kind of by default going to have to be the next chair also, because your term is going to end in the middle of the election.
I think Eileen already assumed that might be the case.
Yeah,
okay,
that happened.
Just to be clear.
Well, yeah, but that happened the last time. So yeah.
All right. Well, is there?
What are your thoughts, Cliff? You've done a good job. We've kind of rotated in the past, but it's up.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
No, I think I'm okay with that. It's been a little tough for me the last few months with securing enough time to stay on top of things, and you do know your way around all the things that we're doing and the folks that we're working with. So, and you're right, as we talk about mail-in ballots, I think it makes fair sense.
Okay.
So if you're comfortable with that,
Well,
I am okay.
It's certainly a team effort.
Yes, that it is. So is there a motion on the floor?
I move to nominate Eileen as chair.
I will second that. All in favor, raise your hand.
Okay.
All right. It is
All right. Thanks,
approved
guys.
unanimously. Eileen, thank you very much for being willing to do that then another round. I appreciate that.
Thank you for doing it for the past 2 years and really spearheading the campaign. So I'm hoping that you're going to finish through with that.
We'll get that wrapped up.
It's your area of expertise,
Absolutely.
not mine.
Like I said, it's a little funny that I actually enjoyed playing with it a little bit. It's a bit of a diversion. All right, so we reached the end of the meeting. So what the expectations at this point in time are that next we'll hear back from Ashley, and I don't know whether or not we want to wait until then, or Ashley, you think we'd be fairly safe right now to set a time for a special meeting that I think could be limited to 15 minutes because it should be fairly brief to go over the legislation.
I think you can go ahead and set a time. I
Okay.
work with Jacqueline regularly, so I can make sure she gets back to me.
All right. So let's do that then. So today is Regina.
Okay, I'm just saying, because of our schedules and all the meetings that are set, that require additional time, because we have the Zoom meetings in preparation that we'll need to get ready for this. Is it possible that you guys could meet on a Friday, like during the day?
For a brief meeting like this, I can, yes.
Considering I'm teleworking, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, because if you could meet on Fridays, we tend not to schedule things on Fridays, so we can do things we absolutely have to do on Fridays. And if you could do that during the day, it would be very, we would appreciate it.
So if it's Friday the 29th, that will still be plenty of time for the June
to put out
meeting.
the notice.
Good. So what time do you think is good? Is 3 p.m.?
That works for me.
It works
as long as it isn't between 1:30 and 2:30, because that's normally when I have conference calls, I'm good.
All right, I'm going to take a quick look at my calendar for the 29th. I have nothing after 3. I am booked solid until 2 o'clock on that Friday.
Okay.
And it sounds like Brianna can't do it before 2:30.
Okay, so
no, I can. As long as it's not between 1:30 and 2:30, I can do any other time. I start working at 6 a.m. So
well, my conflict is I can't do it before then, so it looks like we're locked into after 2:30.
Okay. So 3 o'clock on the 29th.
Sorry.
Right. It should be short.
It should be short. All right. Excuse me. So remind me, make sure, or perhaps Eileen, that we get that quick agenda out so we can publicize it
Sure.
in advance.
Yeah.
All right.
One other thing, I guess, is a holdover from our meeting in February, and I think Ashley was following up on it, was the ability to do e-signatures.
We talked about that
We
while
did.
you were off. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah,
Ashley's gonna take a second look at that.
I just sent an email out again to my boss, the head of IT, and I copied Regina to keep her in the loop. I also copied Stephanie Connor saying, this is what we're doing with the forms. Here's the relevant code section. Would we oppose to be doing a pure e-signature? And I will let you know when I hear back.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Ashley. And if, depending on how that goes, we could have that on the agenda then for the meeting on the 29th.
Okay, great.
Very good. Any other discussion on items? Otherwise, we'll call for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor of adjournment? Show of
Aye.
hands. All right. Thank you all. This concludes the